I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Good evening, everyone. It's March 16th, 2020. I'm Eric. I'm going to do things a little bit differently today. Let's talk about government guidance, okay? Government guidance. And the reason I want to talk about this is because we're hearing this term quite a bit lately. Quite a bit. And the things in our country here are about to get really crazy. I'd like to remind everybody, firstly, that we, the people of this world, literally put our hands or our lives into the hands of groups of people who have a long track record of doing the exact opposite of what's good, just, and right for their people. So much so that in the 20th century, somewhere around 260 million people, these are non-combatants, died at the hands of the very people who were supposed to be protecting them. Right? Just remind you. So, government guidance. Let's start with the Surgeon General. Surgeon General keeps telling people they do not need to wear masks. Okay? They do not need to wear masks. That they cannot prevent you from getting sick. Let me remind you that not too long ago, the Chinese government was literally beating people for not wearing these masks. I'd like to remind you that in the same breath, the Surgeon General tells you you don't need one. They say they need it to protect their healthcare workers. This is a fine example of doublespeak. It won't protect you, but it'll protect that healthcare worker. And by the way, I hate to say this, but it is the truth. In China and most of the other places, the healthcare workers got infected no matter what they wore. Okay. So, do masks help you? There's this concept called inoculant. And low and high inoculant. A low inoculant is where, let's use an example of a person sneezing in the store, and you have a mask on, right? You end up crossing paths with the aerosol. With a mask on, it may not catch every single particle. However, the particle count that you actually inhale would be pretty low. Okay, that's not to say you won't get sick, but it does give your body the advantage of being able to slowly react to it, whereas a high inoculant, your immune system kicks in right away and panics almost with a high inoculant. So the mask prevents you from getting a high dose of the virus if you're out in public. So the Surgeon General gave you bad guidance. Perhaps even negligent guidance. I mean, these are the people that you trust, that you take stake in, that you worship. Here's another bit of guidance for us. They banned the use of single-use grocery bags, right? Well, it turns out that this policy ended up causing more harm than doing any good. This is yet one of these guidance things, right? They guide you right into oblivion. Now, there's a lot of people who keep on suggesting that none of this is real, that it's a simulation. I would say to them that it would be the world's most costly simulation ever in the history of our planet. China literally destroyed its economy. We are in the process, well, we already, the economy was already destroyed. Our economy, the world economy, really, before this. Now it's done. It's done. This isn't something that nations are gonna just be able to bounce back from. If it's a real virus. If it's a real virus and the Italian doctors aren't lying, if Chris Martenson isn't lying, which I really doubt at this point, is simply by listening to all of the news briefs from the various governors. I mean, some of these people sound genuinely freaked out. And when your government starts to freak out, when people who wield the pen and make these decrees upon you, and you don't follow these decrees, they will use the gun to either force you to follow their decree or kill you. We're getting into a situation here, people, that we have an extremely negligent government. We have an extremely violent police culture. We have an extremely violent culture, period. We have a situation where the food is going away. And I cannot emphasize this enough. People are going to get desperate. They're going to come looking for food. Cops will abandon their posts. Your local heroes are going to take care of their own families. We ain't at that point yet. But this is what you should expect. You should expect the people that work at the hospitals to stop showing up to work. Some of them will die. And that's what will begin the chain of events for healthcare workers to say, fuck this shit. I'm not risking my life for all these ungrateful bastards. Put yourself in their shoes. Think about it. Think about it. The same with law enforcement. A couple of them will get sick and they'll die. And that will set off that chain of events. We keep hearing the phrase, we're in this together. This is not the case. If I'll give you an example. If you live by yourself, you're going to be locked in your home, possibly with a decent amount of food, but probably not. I would argue that those individuals are alone in this. How many people out there are actually prepared? I know that the store shelves have been wiped out, but that represents only a small fraction of our population. What are the rest of the 75% who don't have shit? What are they going to do? Man, let me tell you. We also keep hearing about this great leadership out of Donald Trump, and man, he has broken his arm and patting himself on the back for banning flights from China. Let me tell you something here. I did a little and digging up on some numbers before I started this video, and you might find this pretty interesting. I'm trying to read my awful handwriting here. I do apologize. Oh, yeah. And before I get to that, though, don't forget that you're trusting the very same government, the same military-industrial complex apparatus, the same prison industrial complex apparatus that has carried out thousands of experiments on the public. Don't forget that. These are the people you trust. Not me. Not me. So, there's that. Now, back to government guidance and Donald Trump patting himself on the back, right? So the first case was on November 17th there in China, all right? And on January 29th, Chinese New Year, December, okay, there was 15,574 flights that came out of China in one day. One day. The day before the first announcement, or day of the first announcement, December 31st, right? That was 15,574 flights that, in all likelihood, had infected people on them. Now, I didn't find exactly how many came to the United States, but it doesn't take very many at all. And it really wouldn't matter at the end of the day. So, he waited from 17th to January 22nd, something like that. Yeah. So they had all that time, and that 15,574 flights only represents a single day. By the time January 22nd rolled around, the flights had increased to 17,181 in a single day. How many of those flights came here? We could easily say that possibly one for every state, if not more. So it's been spreading since at least early December here because of Chinese New Year. People coming over here to celebrate with their family, who owns these Chinese restaurants that mainstream media keeps on saying it's fucking racist to avoid. So, and that's just the beginning of our problems here, people. Already, they're banning the sale of guns. Why would they do that? Why would they want to keep Americans defenseless in a time of crisis? Why? So there's that. And by the way, the CDC started looking for public health advisors for a quarantine program on November 15th, 2019. I find it very interesting that 2 days before the first announcement there in China, they post a job listing for, for public health advisors for a pandemic quarantine program. Isn't that strange? I think it is. So here's what I think is going to happen now. Their crops last year, a lot of it didn't get harvested. The same places are underwater still, or are very, very muddy. Okay? There's no public reserves. It's all been reserved for you know who. The important people. Which, by the way, all these so-called important people, they're running off to their hideouts. So, is it real? Well, if it's not real, it's one good fucking shit show. Isn't it? It's going to get increasingly worse from here on out. People are going to be doing home invasions to feed themselves. People who are severely addicted to things like heroin, they will be doing some very stupid things. When people get desperate, there is no end to what they are willing to do to get whatever it is they need. I hope that you've taken my advice seriously when I made my first video about this pandemic. I told you then. To start preparing. I'm not worried at all, because I was far ahead of the curve. I have not a worry in the world concerning this, except for one. And that one thing is government incompetence and stupidity. That is my biggest worry. My biggest worry is the government being fearful. Because when these people get afraid, they only know one thing, and that's to pass legislation against the public. They'll try to tell you it's for the greater good, but it's not. Listen, my daughter, she has not been vaccinated for anything. She got her first set to get her out of the hospital, and after that, she didn't get them. She's never been sick, seriously sick, like, no major infections. An ear infection when she was 1 year old. Other than that, she's never been seriously sick. The vaccine shit is a lie. They cannot, they can't foresee what strain of the flu is going to be given or going to be floating around in any given year. They have to guess. And when they do this, finally do this vaccine that's coming, that probably they'll try to force on the public. But I don't think, if it's a real deal, and I think it is, I don't think there'll be enough of them left to do anything. And that's real talk. We're going to lose a lot of people. And some of these people are going to be highly specialized individuals. And what we're going to get is a cascading effect. It's going to be one hit after another. And the worse things get, the more violent and irrational and stupid the government and the people will get. My whole life, I've only cared about the apocalypse, or should I say apocalyptic things. That's been my biggest interest. Everything apocalypse, I know that shit. So, what I may not be a doctor, I do comprehend. I do comprehend what I read, and I do comprehend what I see. I do comprehend what I hear. And if you read between the lines, all these press conferences, you'll see that these people are about to drop the hammer on us in a way that you cannot fucking imagine. But it's going to make a lot of them sick when they do. So, anyway, I thought I'd talk to you all today. If I see something tomorrow, I'll talk about it. And I do have something for tomorrow. It's rather disgusting, but it has to be talked about. So until next time, kill the state, live free.